get the most from your music.
Okay, so you are wanting to get into playing records. I can't blame you for that. But since the resurgence of vinyl in the UK, but also around the world, there's been lots of companies that have been born from this new opportunity to introduce turntables that are, unfortunately, less than perfect. We're not here to say to people, do not buy these things. In fact, actually, far from it. What we're saying is like, look, if you want to dip your toe into playing records, then you're going to need to invest in a record player, a vinyl player. And what we're wanting you to do is just understand what you're buying so that you can make an informed decision about the right product for you. Now, the entry point into the hobby historically used to be individuals would be fortunate enough to be given a pass-me-down from a family member, a brother, a sister, an uncle, an auntie, a father, a mother. This was the traditional way because we all had record players in the home. However, in more recent times, it's turned out that it's not the case anymore. So people are having to go out and buy a brand new one. And this is where we can find some problems. So let's just talk about the anatomy of one of these types of turntable that we're not saying don't buy. We're just saying if you buy it, just understand what you're buying, and hopefully when you make that decision that you realise that it's a short-term fix. It can get you buying some records, you can kickstart your collection, and that's all good. But you need to also bear in mind the downsides. Say hello to a suitcase turntable. These products are mass-produced in China and they get people playing records, and therefore we welcome that into our hobby. It's good that people have an entry point into the idea of being a record collector, buying their own music, owning their own music. And as a result, these products, in fairness, do exactly that. They come in a very small form factor and they're affordable. This one, for example, is £40. Now, let's just first of all take a moment to think about this. £40 is not a lot of money when it comes to building a product like this. So there has to be things that are scrimped on and are saved to make it even possible for something of this price point to actually land on the shelves. Now, what we've got here is an example that this one's called Bush, made by Bush, but at the end of the day, it could be any brand. There's lots of brands out there. But what they're doing is they're making a turntable that will play a record, and you can start collecting records. So, let's have a look at what one of these turntables, record players, vinyl players consists of. So, we have a wooden box. On the back of it, we've got some outputs. So in theory, you could plug it into a system. You could have your own amplifier and do it that way. But most people buy these because on the front here, you have two speakers. Really small little speakers sharing the same cabinet as the turntable itself. And that in itself is a problem because that means that those speakers, albeit very small, when they're moving, they're passing on noise, energy into the cabinet itself, and that's where the record sits and the stylus sits, which in itself creates this inherent problem in that you've got unwanted noise within the unit. But hey, it's a small compact box and they look quite cool, so that's fine. Okay. So we open up the box and let's see what's inside here. So what we have here is a turntable that consists of lots of plastic parts. Let's just go through some of these parts in more detail. What we have here is, first of all, we've got a platter. The platter's made of plastic. It's first of all, the platter itself, this is very flimsy. And it's got 3 rubber dots on it. I guess the idea is so that the record doesn't slip on the plastic. I'm guessing there's a belt underneath here that's controlling, that's got a little motor that joins to it. The idea of this is that there's no actual ability for this to hold its own speed. As soon as it spins, it just stops. And it's got no inertia because there is no weight to this particular platter. So it's relying on the motor to actually power it. which is fine, but your record's not been supported. So when you put a record onto this player, you'll very quickly realise that the record overhangs it by some way. So the record's not fully being supported. But that keeps the size small, so we get why they do that. The next thing that I want to draw your attention to is the arm. So the arm's a really important part of the playback system. And what we have here is essentially a little bit of plastic on a very rudimentary bearing. We've got a little lift on there, lifts it up and down. And when we then put the needle onto the record, the idea is that this will then follow the groove and gather the information that's on the record. The problem that exists with this particular product, and this is my biggest bugbear with this product, and this is why it's not for something we should consider using long term, is that they don't actually allow you to make any adjustments. So this particular record player, if I put the needle down, I've no idea how hard that's pressing on the record. I can actually find out. I've got a pair of scales here, and this pair of scales allows me to measure up to 5 grams, which by the way is far too much, but let's just have a look and see. It's actually saying full. So what that's indicating is that this stylus is pressing down more than 5 grams on your record. Now bearing in mind these styluses can be bought on Amazon for 4 of them for £5. They're not made to high standard. So essentially what you're doing is you're dragging a very, very cheap diamond, or I guess it's not diamond, whatever it's made of, in the groove of your record, and it's pressing down far too hard. I have no way of adjusting this. There is no ability to change the weight of what this presses down on. So basically you get what you're given. And this is the biggest problem that I have with these products. If you use the record regularly with this record player, over time it's going to start to damage the groove. And ultimately the groove is where the information sits that makes the music. And therefore, if you're going out and buying records that you're really proud of and want to hold on to and use for years to come, playing them on something like this that you can't control how hard it presses down is going to cause you problems.
Get the most from your music.
So, turntables like this. Are we saying don't buy them? No, we're not. We're saying if you want to just try out this hobby, feel free, buy one. Come and buy one from us. The difference that you'll get from us is we can show you one, we can let you hear one, and if that's what you can afford, and it gives you the chance to go out and buy a couple of records. We've got a record shop next door after all. We have people do that. They buy the first record and this gets them going. We're all for that. That promotes our hobby, and the chances are you'll probably realise that down the line you need something that's going to get a bit more out of that groove. However, these products get people going, so we're not here to knock the idea of an affordable turntable. All we're trying to do is let you understand that there is limitations to what you can get for £40. And gosh, there's so much more music on those records that you're paying £25 for, and this product is not going to get them that information out of that groove, but it's a start, and therefore we welcome it. So for us, our job is just to inform, educate and advise people of what's available. And as we start to develop the channel, you'll see we'll talk about lots of different turntables in regards to how they work and what's the benefit of different approaches, because there's lots of them, and we'll maybe refer back to these every now and then, just explaining kind of how it's done properly and how it's done in a way that doesn't damage that all-important groove of that record. After all, vinyl is actually plastic, and if you abuse it, it will deteriorate. So I hope you found this useful. If you have, please like, subscribe, and give us a thumbs up on the channel. It really helps us as we're in our infancy to understand kind of the content we're producing and if it's something that you'd like to see more of. So thanks for now, and thank you. We'll see you on the next video. Cheers now.
Get the most from your music.